everyone, and welcome back to Art Historian. Today we are going to be talking about Michelangelo Merisi, or as history would remember him, Caravaggio. For a long period of time in my studies of art history, Caravaggio was my favorite artist, so I am very excited to talk about him today. He was born in Milan in 1571, and around the time he was 5, his family fled Milan in pursuit of the city of Caravaggio. I wonder why we decided to call him that. To escape the plague. There he apprenticed under some really prestigious artists who drew influences from Northern European art, which gives us a more natural style in his works than we've seen before up to this point. And one great thing about Caravaggio is that he is our first example of these really famous artists who painted on speculation. So everything we've looked at up to this point has been painted based on commission, which is when someone pays a specific artist to create a specific thing, which the purchaser decides the material of the artwork. Painting on speculation means that the artist goes ahead and creates a work of art and then tries to sell it to somebody who's just passing by. The content of the painting has to be more general so that it appeals to more people. It's also slightly less expensive. So this is how we get things like still life with fruit, something that any given person may appreciate. And this was one of Caravaggio's paintings on speculation. The most important thing about this is that it was on speculation instead of on commission, and so we're not going to talk about the content of this piece. Caravaggio has a lot of really dense work, so we don't have a lot of time. But one example of a commissioned piece by Caravaggio is Supper at Emmaus. This is a very large oil painting on canvas. It was created in 1601, and it was commissioned by Ciriaco Mattei. Thank you for putting up with me butchering Italian names, who was the brother to a cardinal. So this scene depicts a story from the Bible where Jesus, after his death and resurrection, comes into Emmaus's family after posing as a traveling man, and this particular moment is when he has just revealed himself as the resurrected Christ to 2 of his disciples. So you can see a lot of really neat things about this painting just by noticing the surprise. The scene looks like something that could actually happen, kind of like someone just took a snapshot of something that was existing, more photograph-like, more candid, instead of something that looks very posed, like a lot of what we've seen in the Renaissance period before we got to the Baroque era. So one crazy awesome thing about this, though, is this hand! Look at this hand! This is our first example of a technique called foreshortening. And I will explain foreshortening to you in the way that it was explained to me. Shout out Miss Mac. And that is, it's one thing to say, draw me. It's another thing to say, draw me. It's a really crazy thing to create and make it look as good as Caravaggio makes it look. It's amazing. It looks super realistic. This piece also shows a really great example of chiaroscuro, which we have discussed, I think, in another video. If you need a refresher, you can watch it up there. But in short, chiaroscuro is a dramatic portrayal of light and dark. So it creates a really intense contrast of light and shadows. In order to cram more cool things into this video, on to the next one. So this piece is called David with the Head of Goliath by Caravaggio, obviously. David with the Head of Goliath is an oil on canvas that was created in 1610, and it was one of Caravaggio's last pieces to ever be painted. As you can see, this is very graphic, which this is a lot more characteristic of Caravaggio's work. A lot of times he does not shy away from cutting off heads, showing blood and things dripping. He was really a very gory painter, especially for the time period, and a lot of people were offended by his work. So yes, this piece also shows incredible examples of foreshortening. Yes, it shows awesome examples of chiaroscuro, but that is not what makes this piece special. So Historians aren't sure on it, but this piece was very likely created after Caravaggio got in a sword fight with someone and ended up killing the man in this altercation. So while we don't have the most accurate information on what this piece was supposed to represent, we believe it to be an expression of guilt. Because look at this portrait of Caravaggio and look at Goliath. He drew himself as the slain monster in this biblical story of good versus evil. While some may have portrayed themselves as like the hero, they slayed the monster, they stopped the bad thing from happening, they deserve the pardon, Caravaggio expresses his guilt in this, and they believe that David is meant to be the figure of Caravaggio as a young man, in a way saying, this is not what I was intended to be like. And this may have gone so far as to be a request for pardon from his crime of murder against this other man. As a side note, the subject has a sword in his hands with the inscription H-AS-OS, which is an abbreviation of the Latin phrase humilitas occidit superbium. If you thought my Italian was bad, wait till you hear my Latin, meaning humility kills pride. As you can see, Caravaggio was super cool. There were a lot of other really neat things he did to push the envelope a little bit, and he really gave us a lot of precursors, honestly, to avant-garde. Though it wasn't quite avant-garde, the world was mostly ready for it, but man, he did some cool stuff. I always love to see people go off script in history. I know, we're kicking this year off with a bang. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, leave a like, click the bell, get notifications on when I post new videos. I also have 2 social media channels. One is a Twitter and one is an Instagram. My tags for those are about to be up on the next screen. Thanks for watching.